Hi guys, and welcome back once again to Jonesy's vlog. So after my last video where everyone pretty much knew that Ross McCormack was going to leave Leeds United, it was made official yesterday and he joined Fulham, which like I say, as I mentioned in that last video, part of me was disappointed that he chose, or that he felt he was better in his career by joining another championship team. And you know, yes, obviously Fulham have been in the Premier League for, well, it'll be the past, what is it, 12, 13 years now, I think. So, you know, obviously they've just come down, so they've got that money behind them, they've got a top manager there. You know, no doubt they still have all the Premier League sort of set up there in the training facilities and etc. But, you know, it's not a given that they're going to be going straight back up. So, like I say, it's disappointing. You know, I felt if McCormack was going to go and he felt the ambition, wanted to better himself, then maybe going to the Premiership, going to the Premier League, sorry, would be the best move for him. But then again, if there were no Premier Leagues showing any interest, then maybe he didn't want to take that risk. And you know, he obviously feels that he's going to better his career by going to Fulham. And because it's been made very clear that obviously it wasn't going to work out at Leeds with Cellino, but I'll get onto that in a minute. But I think what's really surprising and what took a lot of fans by surprise was the 11 million price tag and the 11 million pounds that he's gone for. Well, reportedly gone for, and that's not meant to be an upfront figure either, because I think there's clauses that it goes up to 11 million if Fulham get promoted or whatever. Obviously Cardiff get a percentage of that as well, which I believe is 10 or 15%. So, you know, it's not like we're getting the full 11 million up front or anything, but still, 11 million pounds for Ross McCormack. I can't get my head around it, I really can't, but I think it kind of shows what age of football we're in. And it just shows how far football really is. I mean, it's already, you know, it'd already gone into a fully, you know, money-driven business, hadn't it? Really, you know, it's over the past 5, 6, 7 years or so. It was going that way anyway. But in a day and age where we see, you know, a couple of weeks ago we see David Luiz going to PSG for, was it 50 million, something stupid like that. You know, we're going to be seeing Suarez go to Barcelona for, what do we think, 60, 70 million. You know, Bale to Real Madrid was 80, 90 million, whatever it is. So, you know, McCormack from Leeds to Fulham, you know, he's going to be 28. Yes, you know, I love Ross McCormack. I think he's a great player. He's been a decent servant to us. But really, when you look at it, it's only been, well, he's had two decent seasons, you know, one where he got his 18 goals, and obviously last season where he finished up as the league's top goal scorer, which is great and fantastic, and you know, he is clearly a very good player. But I would have valued him no more than maybe 7 million, and you know, I think that's pretty generous, really. So for Fulham to want to get him for 11 million, you know, that's a big positive to come out of this move. Well, I say it's a big positive to come out of this move. It's only a positive if that money's spent correctly, because we've got money for players before. You know, we got 7 million for Fabian Delph. We didn't see any of that, but the East Stand did. So we'll have to see how Mr. Cellino wants to spend this 11 million. I think it's the right time and the proper time for him to prove himself to us all. And you know, obviously there's people already that like what Cellino's doing and are happy with the things that he's doing, and then there's people like myself who, you know, we're not wanting to dislike the guy, and you know, obviously happy about him taking on the club and wanting to put money into it. But you know, we've got our issues with him, and quite rightly so, I believe. And it's not about being negative, you know, we're not wanting to be against him. It's just, you know, we've been up shit's creek so many times, you know, at Leeds United. I think it's only right to question things if we feel it needs questioning. So, you know, I'm not 100% happy with some of the things, you know, Cellino's done. And I'm not happy with the way that sort of McCormack has left the club. You know, he feels that, from the two sides of the story, McCormack feels that he's been left hung out to dry. Those are quotes from Adam Pope, Radio Leeds. And feels like it was... It clearly couldn't work with Cellino, and Cellino's come out and basically said the same, but from his point of view, saying that McCormack didn't want to play for the club anymore and that he didn't feel they could work together or something. And it makes sense, because you think about it, when Brian McDermott was sacked that first time round by Cellino, you know, McCormack as the captain came out and supported him, and put it out there publicly, his support for McDermott. So obviously Cellino saw that from the start. So maybe it was clear that they were never really going to get on, and it wasn't going to work out. So, but it is worrying that, you know, when McCormack was clearly, you know, the best player at the club and our biggest asset, and if Cellino's going to act like that with our better players, I mean, is that something we're going to have to put up with all the time? Is he always going to be clashing with our top players and our stars? It's just a thing that does worry me a bit. But no, like I say, you know, this is the time for him to sort of prove us wrong. You know, his doubters, and you know, he's got that money now. If he spends it wisely on some decent players, and doesn't just throw it away and chuck it around, or spend it on something completely, you know, pointless, then, you know, that's a decent start, and I will commend him highly for it if he does that. So obviously since yesterday, well, mainly yesterday, we have seen some new faces at the club. We've got goalkeeper Silvestri from was it Chievo, I think he's come from. He's meant to be a decent young keeper. According to Neil Sullivan, he's showing a lot of potential, which that does worry me a bit. The fact he's saying he's showing potential, but it looks like he's probably going to be our #1 keeper. As a #1 keeper, I kind of want someone who's already kind of there, not showing the potential. I'd rather have someone who's got a little bit more experience. But, you know, we'll have to see. You know, I haven't seen anything of him, so, you know, I'm not wanting to comment just yet. And we've also got, is it Bianchi, who's a midfielder. To be honest, these players, I know nothing about them, so it's very hard for me to say anything about them just yet. But you know, by all accounts, they seem very happy that they're sort of getting them in the squad. Today there's been reports of 3 other possible signings. I think a defender, a midfielder and a striker. Can't remember the names off the top of my head. Again, these all seem to be from Italy, which was expected, obviously. You know, I'm not sure what fees are sort of being chucked about for these players, but I imagine not too much. So I don't feel like this is going to eat into the 11 million, or the money, should I say, that we're getting from McCormack, and seems to be deals that were going to have been done, you know, in spite of or whatever McCormack going. So, you know, I'd really like I said before, you know, I feel we're clearly going to miss McCormack, because if he isn't replaced, you know, by a decent goal scorer, then we're really going to struggle next season, because I don't believe in our squad we have enough firepower there, you know, to get us the goals that we need. And, you know, to get out of the Championship, I feel you really do need to have a decent strike rate in your team, and have at least one player in your team that's getting 20+ goals. And again, like I mentioned in the last video, I can see Matt Smith stepping up this season, but I still can't see him being a 20 goal a season striker. You know, ideally I'd like us to have a team where everyone's chipping in, and so, you know, there's 3 or 4 players that are getting 10+ goals and everyone else chipping in, and that kind of helps a bit. But I think we'd struggle a bit. So if from this money from McCormack we can see a player come in, I'm not asking, you know, not necessarily a big name, because I mean, we've had the big names before and they don't always work out, but just someone who, you know, when he comes in you think he's the man that's going to get us the goals. and just someone to excite the fans and excite the rest of the team as well. You know, just have that star player. You know, someone who stands out. And you know, if that can happen, like I say, I think, you know, we'll all be pretty happy, because it's not been the happiest place these past few weeks, really. You know, starting with Hockaday coming in, obviously that got a lot of people sort of upset and angry, really. You know, people starting to settle down a little bit with that, you know, myself included. You know, I'm still not, you know, over the moon about it by any means, and I can't say it, you know, excites me, but, you know, you're willing to give the guy a chance. And from the sound of things, you know, over there in Italy at the moment, everyone seems in good spirits and everyone seems to be getting on well, which is good, you know, for a start off after so many changes. I mean, you look at the changes in sort of the backroom staff and the way that the club is being run and worked now. I mean, it's going to be completely different to what the majority of our players are used to. I mean, some of the Italian players coming in, at least they'll be used to it, because it's the kind of thing to do, you know, in the foreign leagues. But for a lot of our English players, you know, it's something completely different, having, you know, just a set coach there. We've also got this sporting director who's coming in now. What kind of dealings he has with the squad, I don't really know. So, like I say, you know, been a hell of a lot of changes, but the fact the squad seem to be in good spirits and getting on really well, that's always good to hear. They seem to be working very hard in the training sessions. They've been having about 3 a day. So, you know, at least the fitness is going to be getting up there, which I think is something we seriously lacked last season. So, yeah, you know, it seems to be going okay. But, you know, the real time to kind of judge, like I've always said, is when the season really gets underway. Getting very near, actually. It's gone quite quick as this summer. So yeah, we'll have to see how the next few weeks go. You know, I can see a lot of names coming in probably over this week, and when the squad get back from Italy as well, I can see a few joining up then, because you know, the pre-season games start quite soon. We've obviously got the 2 whilst they're out there in Italy. And then when they get back, there's a trip to Ireland to play Glenavon, which was part of the deal for Robbie McDade. And then we've got trips to Guiseley, to Mansfield, to Chesterfield. One was announced today. This was quite an odd one. I don't know how everyone else is feeling about it, but our home fixture in pre-season is against Dundee United. Now, I know it gets to a point where you're sort of making your pre-season plans, and maybe you run out of teams to play. But I mean, usually when you play a home fixture in pre-season, it tends to be a team of maybe higher calibre, or at least at your level. So to be playing Dundee United seems a bit of a strange one, really, a bit of an odd one. But, you know, fair play to the club that they're putting pretty decent prices on. I think it's about £10, sort of general admission for everyone. I'm guessing it'll be slightly less for concessions, maybe a £5. But it is £5 for all season ticket holders. So, you know, I think that's a pretty decent initiative. Hopefully it'll get a decent crowd in at Ellen Road. But it's certainly opposition that I wasn't expecting. Yeah, so we've got that. I think, did I dream it, or the other day I swear I saw that a trip to Swindon was announced, which I definitely won't be going back there after the 3-0 thrashing a couple of years ago. But yeah, I'm heading to the Geyser game. I definitely know that I'm going to that one, so, you know, looking forward to that. Hopefully it'll be a sort of similar atmosphere to what the Farza game was last pre-season. So yeah, really looking forward to that. And yeah, just sort of one final thing I want to talk about, guys, and it sort of relates to Twitter. And it was, I can't remember who it was. I don't really want to name names, but and one Twitter user sort of said to another about, I don't want to quote this, but he said something like, have you ever tried being positive and saying positive things instead of always being negative? Now, I think, you know, sometimes people do go over the top. You know, you can get certain people that no matter what's happening, they will always be positive. Which is, you know, fair play to them. If that's the way, you know, their outlook on life, then, you know, all fair enough to them. Then you have the other people who, no matter how good things can get, people will always moan. Which, you know, they can be a little bit more annoying, but again, maybe it's just the way that they are. And then you get people like me that I just react to things how they are. So, you know, some days if I really feel something's positive, then I will react to it and obviously react positively. If I don't feel it's a positive thing for the club or whatever personally, then obviously I'm going to act negatively. And that's the same for everyone. I'm guessing that's a natural thing, and that's just how people are. So for someone to say to someone else on Twitter, which is free speech, you know, for someone to say, try being positive for once. Well, why would you fake your positivity? You know, since the season ended, there hasn't, for me personally, I haven't been happy with a lot of things that have been going on at the club. And there's been very little that I've felt has been a positive thing. You know, thinking off the top of my head, you know, I thought it was a positive thing when the club came out and said that they were allowing flags and banners back into the ground, especially in the Cop End and the South Stand. You know, I thought that was great that they were coming out and making things a lot easier for us to do that. I think it's positive over the last few days how is it 7 or 8 youngsters have signed full-time contracts with the club. Again, I think that's fantastic news. You know, the money for McCormack I think is positive. And now the fact that after just those 3 things... Oh yeah, the new shirt. I like the new shirt. That was a positive. But then after that, I'm really struggling. You know, there's not many things that I've felt upbeat about that has been announced this summer. Now, some people have chosen to be happy about it and over the moon with Cellino, and they don't have a bad word to say about him, which is fine, absolutely fine. I've got no trouble with that. So then, for me on Twitter, if I want to question that, suddenly those people will then maybe turn to me or other people like myself and say, "Oh, why you have to be anti-Cellino?" Now, yeah, I've covered this before in my vlogs. We're not being anti-Cellino. It's just if we don't feel right about it or happy about something, we have the right to question that. And it's not about being negative. It's just putting our feelings out there. You know, I would love everything to, you know, come out so perfectly. You know, I would love Cellino to prove me wrong on all grounds and make top-notch decisions with the signings and build a fantastic squad. I would love David Hockaday to come out and be one of the best coaches that we've ever had and lead us to success, and for the team to prove everyone wrong, and people like Noel Hunt and Steve Morrison to come out and be, you know, some of the best striking pair that we've ever had. You know, I don't personally believe, from what I've seen so far, that any of that will happen, but I would love it to. And it's not, I'm not being negative or anti-Cellino, anti-Hockaday or whatever, it's just the way that I feel. And people just need to get their heads around that on Twitter a lot. You know, if you're going to be ultra positive about something Cellino's done, I'm not going to come out and say, why can't you be a bit negative about things some of the times? What, you know, why should you do it the other way around just if I feel something isn't as right as it should be? No, it's just the way things happen. So, sorry, I just wanted to get that off my chest. And also, we did really see the poor side of Twitter the past few days, with especially with the McCormack thing coming out. You know, apparently people have been turning up at his house. You know, some people had been putting his details of where he lived and a house he's got up for sale on Twitter, which I just really don't understand. I mean, people really do take it too far, way too far. And some of the abuse that he's been getting, and some of the abuse his partner's been getting as well, or fiance, I can't remember. It's just so disgusting and vile, and I really don't understand it. You know, a player who has played for the club, clearly enjoyed playing for the club, and, you know, has been a pretty decent servant. You know, I'm not going to come out and call him a legend like some people have been going, because he's far from a legendary status. He's been a good player for the club, and he's been a decent servant. Let's just leave it at that. You know, I can't get my head around people getting getting so personal about things and being like that with his fiancée and putting those details up so they knew that idiots would turn up at his house. They're just absolute, you know, numbskulls on Twitter. And you know, I know you've got to expect people like that on Twitter, and you have trolls, etc. But when people get that involved and that personal, you know, that's where you really, you know, stepping over the line. And you know, the fact that they call themselves Leeds fans and that, it's pretty shameful and pretty embarrassing, really. And it's just not, it's not what you want to see from fellow fans of the club. And you know, you see other people looking in at that, and they'll have seen some of that abuse. And yeah, like I say, it's a bit of a shameful act, and a sad way for Ross to end his career at the club. You know, he came out and said that he's pretty gutted that it's ended the way that it has, but that's football, and everyone moves on. And you know, I really hope people do move on Twitter and stop the abuse towards him, and just, you know, start supporting our lads and everything. So anyway, it's been a bit of a long one tonight, but I feel there's quite a bit to talk about, so I'm going to leave it there. Leave me your thoughts as always. Obviously your thoughts on McCormack going. And I'm just going to point out now, if people are going to be abusive, like I've talked about the ones in Twitter, just don't bother, because you're not going to get the reaction that you want. But yeah, you know, leave your thoughts, leave your favourite memories of McCormack whilst he's been at the club, your thoughts on him leaving, your thoughts on the money that we've received for him, who you'd like to see that spent towards. And just your thoughts in general of how things have been going the past few days. You know, these players that seem to be coming in, players that we're rumoured to be getting as well, and obviously how things seem to be going out there in Italy. So, like I say, yeah, leave your comments below or at my Twitter at ChrisJonesLUSC. As always, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all very soon.